Hello everybody, today we're going to be reading some Reddit stories while I explore in Genshin Impact. Use this as a way to study or also put up on your side monitor while you explore in Genshin Impact or any game that you are playing. Let's begin. This first story comes from Am I the A-hole? It starts, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I can't always stop work to do things for her? I've worked from home since 2020 when the COVID lockdowns closed my office, and my employer subsequently realized we could easily do our jobs from home without needing an office at all. It works out very well because it always allows me to take my kids to school in the morning, come home and start work, and then pick them up on my lunch break. My wife works at an office, but her workday starts about an hour after mine. A typical day looks like this. I get up at 6:30 in the morning and get the kids ready for school. I take them to school at 7:30 in the morning. I get home around 8, I'm assuming 8 in the morning. Make some coffee and then start my workday at 8:30 a.m. During this time, my wife is still asleep. We typically go to bed around the same time every night. Most of the time, I also use that time between 8 and 8:30 to prepare lunch for my wife. Sometimes either she or I have packed something the night before, but it's something like a sandwich. Then I'll make it fresh right before she leaves. However, I can't always do this. Today, I dropped my kids off at school when one of them noticed they forgot their lunch bag. We live fairly close, so I could go home, grab the lunch bag, and bring it to school for her. This, however, had me getting home at almost exactly 8:30 in the morning. I had made my wife well aware that this week was going to be hectic and I will be swamped with work all week, so this shouldn't have come as a surprise. But my wife, as she typically does, didn't get out of bed until just a few minutes before she had to leave, giving her just enough time to get dressed, do her hair, put on makeup, and head out the door. She asked me to put her lunch together because she didn't have time, but I reminded her that I was swamped and literally couldn't spare a minute, much less the several minutes it would take to do that. My job is very deadline based, so there are times I need to be working on a certain task by a certain time and it needs to be done. If I don't do my job, many other people can't do theirs, and it would hold up our whole process. I hold a senior position with 10 years at my company, so it's unlikely I'd be fired if I missed a couple deadlines, but it's not something I want to do if I can't help it. It can be frustrating when she acts like I can always just drop what I'm doing. As she left, she said, I quote, I don't know why you can care so much about this company you work for. You should care more about your family. And then walked out the door. I feel like that's unfair because I believe I have an excellent track record when it comes to caring about my family. I've often thought about asking her to be the one to get up and take the kids while I sleep sometimes, but I never do because in the end, I'm glad she's able to get some extra sleep before she heads to a job where she's on her feet all day. Yet somehow she thinks I am the a-hole for making work a priority in this rare situation. Is she right? Okay, so at first, the beginning title honestly did sound like a red flag, but obviously, we read it and we have a little bit more context. I think this is just a matter of communication. Uh, I don't think the husband here is the a-hole. I don't think the wife is fully the a-hole either. However, I do think she is in the wrong. I don't think this is a situation where anyone's really like an evil person. I do think that, the husband just has to have a conversation with his wife and just talk about, the seriousness of her punctuality. I know for myself, like I live 10, 11 minutes away from my job. So I wake up roughly 40 minutes before my shift starts. And sometimes that's enough time and sometimes it's not. However, I don't have a kid to take care of. I feel like as a parent, your child should be a priority. And, this guy seems to be making his family and his children his priority. But he also really cares about his job. And that's important. I know recently I was late to my job by about 20 minutes and it upset me. It crushed me because I genuinely do like my job. So I completely understand. This doesn't sound like anything too damaging. It just sounds like they need to have a little bit of like a serious talk with one another. And who knows, maybe there's something going on with the wife and why she's acting this way, but you never truly know until you have a talk. All right, we have another story from Today I Effed Up. Today I effed up by not waiting until my fiance was asleep. What a title. How could this even go? For some context, I have high functioning autism, which I definitely think played a role in this situation. My fiance was married to a man that constantly put her down and made her feel like S. After years of being told that she was ugly and worthless, she started to believe it. When we first started dating, I did a bunch of research into ways to help her with her self esteem issues. One of the ways I found was an article about unconscious thoughts. The article explained that when told positive things in their sleep, people began to think more positively about themselves. Armed with this knowledge, I started waiting until she had fallen asleep to tell her all the things that I love about. Okay, first, quick. That is so sweet. That is so sweet. Okay. I tell her how beautiful she is and how smart and hardworking she is. I tell her that she's a good mom and that I'm so lucky to have her in my life. And amazingly, I think it's helping. Where I messed up, where I messed up was when we were going to bed the other night. I didn't wait long enough for her to fall asleep. I told her that she was my soulmate and she was so beautiful. And she looked up at me and said, "Huh?" I'm sure I had the shocked Pikachu face when I responded with, "Oh shit, you're awake." I then had to very embarrassingly explain to her what I was doing, why, and how long I had been doing it for. She cried and made me promise that I would always love her as much as I do right now. TLDR, my fiance knows that I'm a huge dork because I'm terrible at judging when she's actually asleep. Okay, this is definitely not a fucked up moment. This is honestly really sweet. Without going too much into detail about my own personal life and my partner, my partner is also someone that can struggle to see the good things and the good traits about them. And I think this is very sweet. This is something that this is honestly a lot better than how I thought it was gonna go. But this is really sweet. There's nothing wrong with this. Let's move on to the next story. Ooh, I think you guys are gonna like this one. Today I effed up by tipping 120% to a pizza guy. This is a very short story. Here we go. Ordered pizza with my buddy. Already paid online, but totally forgot. So I answered the door with $30 cash like a drunk Mr. Beast. Handed it over, thinking I was giving a normal tip. Driver, mid-30s, broken English, driving a car that looked allergic to oil changes, says, "Thank you," like I just cleared his student loans. 2 seconds later, my brain finally boots. Crap. I just tipped him 120% of the order. Thought about asking for it back, then saw him literally hop skip to his car, grinning like he just unlocked a cheat code for life. So yeah, I'm broke, but at least I accidentally cosplayed as a philanthropist for 5 minutes. Sometimes mistakes really do upgrade someone's night. TLDR, forgot I paid online, tipped 120%, wallet crying, heart full. Okay, yeah. Again, this is just another sweet story. Obviously, losing $30 like that definitely hurts, but you never really know how long, like how much $30 can really change someone's life. And clearly, this person receiving $30 that night meant a lot to them. So, W story. All right. Next story is from Am I the A-hole? Am I the a-hole for refusing to drive my friend to class every morning after they sold their car to buy a EDC ticket? I'm not too sure what EDC is, but anyways, my friend and I go to the same university, but we live in different neighborhoods about 30 minutes apart. Up until recently, we both drove ourselves. Last month, my friend decided to sell his car to buy EDC tickets and some merch for his favorite DJ. Okay, so it's like just a DJ. I thought it was kind of impulsive, but it's his money though. This week, he started asking me to drive him to class every morning, and I didn't mind giving him a ride once or twice when it was on the way. But then it turned into an everyday expectation. My friend calls me every night to make sure I'm still picking him up, and last night he called me again and I hesitated. He didn't seem to get me there and even said, "Well, you're driving there anyways, it's not that big of a deal." But here's the thing. Picking my friend isn't just a small detour, it adds about an hour to my round trip, and I end up rushing to find parking and settle before class. Also, he's not sharing some money for the gasoline, so I told him directly that I can't be his daily driver, especially since I have my own schedule and part-time job to juggle. My friend just kept saying, "It's not cool, bro, not cool." I reminded him that selling his car and buying EDC tickets was also not cool if you can't afford it. Not my responsibility to cover for, and then he cut off the call while I'm still talking to him. I don't think it's wrong on my side, but I want him to be responsible and not use me as his daily driver. Am I the asshole? Okay, don't think so. I don't think this person's the asshole. You already went above and beyond. You were already cautious about your friend. You didn't pocket watch him though. W friend for not doing that. But you already went out your way to give him some rides here and there. You are not his parent. You are not his chaperone. You've already done more than enough. If he or anyone is going to refuse to pay for gas for multiple trips, that's just kind of where it ends there. It would be different if you guys like literally commuted to the same exact place at the same exact time. Then like it seems like you're open to that. But because there's so many extra things you have to do with your day because of this, yeah, no, yeah, definitely not the asshole here. All right, the next story. Today I fucked up by telling my husband he needed to pay me if we open our relationship. What? What? Me, 32-year-old female, husband, 31-year-old male, we're talking about friends of ours who opened their relationship with a written contract. Max 5 people, no friends or family, full honesty, except no friends, no family. Excuse me? Okay. Sorry. He told me the girl had no choice, either accept or he'd leave, but apparently she was okay with it in the end because he convinced her she agreed. Whatever works for them, their relationship, their rules, why not? I told my husband if I had to open my relationship, I need to be paid for it. I explained that for me, something like this would only make sense if both sides benefit. I have zero interest in sleeping with strangers, so for me, the benefit would have to be money to make up for the effort. I added that the price would have to be high, so it actually feels like a burden. He looked skeptical. I just said it's a win-win. Everyone gets what they want/need. That's kind of a deal. That kind of deal must be fair for both parties. He asked me how much and I laughed and said $500 plus $100 more per partner, reset every year. We both laughed and moved on. Later that night, he came back and asked me again what my price was. That's when I realized he might actually be considering it. It was supposed to be a joke. We've never even talked about opening our relationship. We do have our issues. Our S life is not the greatest since we had kids, but we're trying to make it work. Now, I can't stop thinking he might actually want this, and I don't. I should have set a higher price. So yeah, I regret saying that. TLDR, I joked about being paid for opening our relationship. My husband is now considering it. Okay, so there's a couple edits, but before we get into that, yeah, this is one of those situations where the husband here clearly did not read the room. Yeah, that's awkward. That's awkward. Okay, let's get into the first edit. Edit. Thanks for the replies and all the different insights. Some of you made me laugh, others really made me think about our relationship. English isn't my first language, so I didn't explain the pricing thing clearly. What I meant was 500 for the first time/partner, then 600 for the second, 700 for the third, and so on. But that was obviously a joke. I am a stay-at-home mom with no job, so in a way he already gives me money. Either way, I think we definitely need to talk about a few things. To those who said maybe he feels left out or his needs aren't fulfilled, you might be right, and that's something we need to talk about too. Oh. I'm not gonna speak on this for too long. That's a little rough. Oh, yeah. That is extremely awkward. I don't know what to say. Let me know what you guys think down below, but that is extremely awkward. Let's just move on to our last story of the day. All right, for our last story of the day, we have, am I the a-hole for apparently forgetting my father's birthday? My dad's birthday is today, on the 18th. Yesterday, when I, 17-year-old male, was watching a TV show with my mother, we were so in tune watching that we didn't see the clock had turned 12 in the morning, and technically his birthday begun. He was sitting with us and usually goes to sleep before 12 because he wakes up for work early in the morning. But he says he stayed much longer on purpose to see if we'd forgotten or not, and we were unaware the clock had surpassed 12 a.m. and he left to go to bed, I think, at 12:15 in the morning. He says after he went to bed, my sister called him from across the country to tell him happy birthday, but we just didn't pay much attention to the time. The next day on the 18th, as soon as he woke up, I told him happy birthday, but he started saying that we forgot his birthday and didn't care about him as much as the TV show, and he started blaming us, saying that my sister from across the country told him happy birthday, but we didn't. Later, while running errands with me and him in the car, he lashed out at me saying I didn't care about him and that I forgot his birthday. When in fact, I showed him that I had his birthday in my calendar for months. I even DM'd my sister reminding her that our father's birthday is soon. He doesn't listen, he calls me a liar. He says even if we didn't see the time, after we stopped watching TV, there's no way we wouldn't know what time it is and we should have knocked on his door and wished him happy birthday. No, question mark. I'm not knocking on his door and potentially waking him up for this. He says he was awake, but how am I supposed to know that? People go to their bedrooms to sleep, especially after midnight, and birthdays should be celebrated in the daylight. It's so unfair blaming me for this, and right now he refuses to talk to me unless I admit I'm wrong. I don't believe I'm wrong though. He should know that most people wish others happy birthday in the morning or noon, whatever, just not after midnight. All right, so this is a fairly recent story. Honestly, yeah. I think it's just the dad, you know. I don't think anyone's really the a-hole here. The family's not the a-hole, the dad's not the a-hole. I think the dad had his expectations just a tiny bit too high. And like the person says, you know, the next morning as soon as he woke up, he told his dad happy birthday. You know, like that's amazing. There's a lot of people who don't even get that. There's so many people who never get told happy birthday on their birthday, you know? So like, yeah, I think that dad was just a little butthurt from the night before, but he'll get over it. It's kind of it is really unfortunate that the dad lashed out on his own kid because of that. Um, there might be something going on deeper between that. There typically always is. But yeah, hopefully they can work that out. Aha, you made it to the end of the video, so I'm gonna surprise you with one bonus story. Today, I fucked up. I'm pretty sure a coworker thinks I eat cat food. I work at a factory. This week I've been working a different shift than normal. Most of my team is in training, so I've been covering third shift for the week to fill the gap. Normally I work second shift, and because of my role, I spend most of my time away from my desk dealing with active issues. So normally I spend my break time eating at my desk so I can catch up on paperwork while I eat. Third shift is way slower. There aren't as many situations that need my intervention. As such, I got ahead on my paperwork. I also wanted to socialize some, so I decided to take my lunch in the break room with the rest of the staff. For lunch today, I made a tuna sandwich with sriracha sauce. Side note, that sounds so good. I didn't want the bread to get soggy, so I mixed the tuna and sauce, put them in the back in the can, and then used the can lid to seal the can. At lunch, I sat with some people I had chatted with and assembled my sandwich. One of the people looked at the can and asked, "Is that cat food?" I was very confused and said, "It's just tuna." I went back to eating and talking. Though I noticed some of the other people were giving me glances. After I packed up, I realized, 1, just tuna isn't red/orange, so obviously it was mixed with something. 2, the can lid was branded with a local pet food store logo. Oh my goodness, they provided an image. Wait. Okay, here's the image on the screen now. The coworker asked if I was eating cat food, and I didn't deny it because I was so confused. TLDR, I ate lunch in the break room, and I'm pretty sure a coworker thinks I eat cat food. Okay, yeah, that's as someone who likes tuna fish, it's always one of those things where sometimes you tell people you eat tuna fish from the can, and then they kind of just look at you weird, even though tuna fish with some mayo is so good. But that's hilarious. I think it would have been okay if the can sealer wasn't a pet food warehouse can. It definitely gives the impression that you're eating cat food. And I mean, like, it's understandable. My fiance's sister has a cat, and anytime I open a can of tuna for myself to eat, the cat will like beeline it straight to the kitchen and meow like crazy because they think that I'm feeding them my tuna fish. So yeah, that's just a really funny, wholesome-ish story to end off with. Yeah, that's about it. This is my first time ever doing this. Please let me know if you guys like these types of videos. Of course, this has been done before with Minecraft and a couple other different like genres of gaming, but I haven't seen it done with Genshin before, and I figured why not play some Genshin and talk about Reddit stories while you guys are probably playing Genshin Impact. Please let me know what you thought about the stories down below. The links to the stories will be in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, but only if you like the video. We have a Discord channel. You should definitely join it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.